Look at this landscape. Miles of frozen emptiness. No trees for shelter, no caves for hiding. Winds that cut through flesh like knives. Now, imagine surviving here. Not for days, for generations. Here's what doesn't make sense. Medieval Vikings didn't just survive this. They raised families here, built communities here, thrived here. Where did they live? We often imagine Vikings as warriors, raiders, conquerors, men of blood and iron. But here's what history skips. Most Vikings weren't warriors. They were farmers, families trying to survive in one of the harshest climates on Earth, and they couldn't build like the rest of Europe. No forests thick enough for endless timber, no stone quarries nearby, no clay for bricks. So they turned to the only material they had in abundance, the earth itself. They didn't build homes on the land, they built homes inside it. And what they created wasn't primitive, it was genius. Let's understand the logic first. Above ground, winter temperatures in medieval Scandinavia dropped to -20, sometimes colder. Winds howled across open land with nothing to stop them. A wooden house, heat escapes through every wall, every crack, every gap. But underground, the earth stays constant, around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round, winter or summer. Vikings discovered something modern engineers confirm today. Earth is the best insulator that exists. So they cut turf, thick blocks of earth with grass still attached, stacked them like bricks, sometimes 5 feet thick. 5 feet of earth between your family and the killing cold. No heat escapes, no wind enters. The home becomes part of the landscape. And enemies? They walked right past because they couldn't see it. Here's what surprises historians. These weren't desperate shelters. They weren't temporary solutions. Some underground Viking homes lasted over 500 years. Generations born, raised, and buried, all from the same sunken walls. But how did they build something so permanent with just dirt and grass? The answer lies in how they engineered the impossible. Vikings started with a skeleton, wooden posts driven deep into the ground, beams across the top, a frame strong enough to hold thousands of pounds of earth. This wasn't guesswork. Timber was precious. Every beam was calculated. One mistake meant collapse, and collapse meant death. Then came the turf. Layer after layer, grass facing outward so roots would bind together. Each layer is placed in alternating directions, like weaving fabric, but with earth. Over time, the grass grew, roots tangled. The walls became living things, self-healing, self-insulating, stronger every year. Above ground, death; below ground, dinner. This contrast wasn't luck. It was engineering perfected over generations. But the walls were only half the secret. What happened inside these homes? How did families of 10 live in buried darkness? The interior design will change how you see Viking life forever. Your eyes adjust to the darkness. The air's warm, heavy with smoke, but alive. The first thing you notice, the ceiling is low, barely 6 feet. Vikings were tall people. They built low on purpose. Low ceilings trap heat. Every inch of air stays warm, nothing wasted. The fire pit sat in the center, always burning, day and night, winter and summer. This wasn't just for warmth, it was the heart of everything. Cooking, light, protection from darkness. The family gathered here. Decisions were made here. Stories were told here. The fire never died, because letting it die meant starting over with numb fingers in frozen darkness. Children learned this early. Guard the flame. Now, here's something modern people find uncomfortable. Privacy didn't exist. One room, one fire, one sleeping platform. Parents, children, grandparents, sometimes servants, sometimes livestock in the adjoining space. Everyone together, every night, for their entire lives. But this wasn't poverty. This was survival geometry. Bodies generate heat. More bodies, more warmth. Children in the center stayed warmest. Adults on the edges faced the cold. Love measured in sleeping positions. There is something we need to address. No chimneys existed in early Viking turf houses. Smoke rose from the central fire and filled the room. It escaped slowly through a hole in the roof. Sometimes it didn't escape at all. Eyes burned, lungs suffered, chronic coughs plagued families. This was the price of warmth. But here's what Vikings discovered accidentally. Smoke preserved the wood. Those ceiling beams blackened by generations of fires, they resisted rot. Insects avoided them. Moisture couldn't penetrate. The same smoke that damaged lungs protected homes. Turf houses survived 500 years partly because smoke cured their bones. Survival always has a cost. Vikings paid it with every breath. But heat was not the only reason Vikings went underground. There's another secret these homes held, a secret that meant the difference between feasting and starvation. The earth was not just shelter, it was a refrigerator. Attached to most turf houses are storage chambers, dug even deeper into the earth where temperatures stayed just above freezing. All year, no ice, no salt, just earth. Vikings stored everything here. Dried fish that would last months, fermented shark meat, skyr, their thick cultured dairy, grain protected from moisture and pests. While other medieval communities lost half their winter stores to rot, Vikings ate well because they understood something fundamental. The earth that sheltered them also preserved their food. One solution, two survival problems solved. Now let's talk about the advantage nobody mentions: invisibility. Viking turf houses didn't look like houses. They looked like hills. Grass grew on roofs. Walls blended into the landscape. From 100 feet away, nothing. Just empty land. Enemy raiders passed entire villages without knowing. Armies marched over homes where families huddled in silence below. Survival meant invisibility, and Viking architecture delivered exactly that. You can't attack what you can't find. Here's the remarkable truth. This wasn't a temporary solution. When Vikings settled Iceland in the 9th century, they brought this knowledge with them. When they reached Greenland, same underground homes. Even when they touched North American shores around 1000 AD, they built turf houses, a technology so perfect it traveled across oceans. But why did the rest of Europe abandon this? Why don't we build like this today? The answer reveals something uncomfortable about modern thinking. While Vikings buried their homes in earth, the rest of Europe built upward. Stone castles, timber halls, monuments designed to impress. Height meant power. Visibility meant status. Buildings announced wealth to the world. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Those impressive structures, they bled heat. They cracked in frost. They required constant fuel. Armies of servants feeding fires day and night. Medieval European peasants froze in homes they could see through. Meanwhile, Viking families slept warm in homes nobody could find. So why did turf houses disappear? Because empires don't value invisible, they value impressive. Status replaced survival, pride replaced practicality, and knowledge that kept generations alive faded into forgotten hillsides. But here's where the story turns. In the last 50 years, scientists started measuring what Vikings knew instinctively, and the numbers, they shocked everyone. Thermal imaging reveals almost zero heat loss. 5-foot turf walls create R values that match modern insulation standards. The constant earth temperature eliminates the need for heating 6 months of the year. Energy consumption? Nearly nothing. Vikings achieved passive heating 1,000 years before we invented the term. Today, architects are returning to Viking principles: earth-sheltered homes, green roofs, passive heating, buildings that work with the land instead of fighting it. They call it sustainable design, revolutionary architecture, cutting-edge thinking. Vikings called it home. We build skyscrapers now, glass towers that touch clouds, heated by systems we don't understand, powered by grids we can't control. One blackout, one supply chain failure, and we shiver in homes we can't warm. Medieval Vikings had none of our technology. No electricity, no central heating, no insulation foam, just observation, just patience, just generations of knowledge passed from parent to child. They looked at the frozen earth that killed unprepared travelers and made it their greatest ally. So here's the question that stays with me. We call ourselves advanced. We call them primitive. But when the next crisis comes, when the power fails and the cold creeps in, will our glass towers protect us, Or will there come a time when we wish we had remembered what the Vikings left hidden in the hills? Sometimes the greatest technology isn't technology at all. It's wisdom. And wisdom doesn't care about centuries. It only asks, are you paying attention?